phase with one best friend. It was easy going roll.
Hi Venters, every now and then I like to talk about dating, not necessarily my own dating life, but I like to talk about dating as it comes across on YouTube. Today I was watching this YouTuber here, his name is Dapper Dev or Dapper Dave. He was doing a video and I noticed in his comment section, which by the way, I no longer judge videos by the video itself. I also judge by how active and fun the comments are. And what I learned listening to these comments today on this video Dapper Dev did, they were really disturbing, guys. So almost everybody nowadays dates by dating apps, especially females. And according to men, when women get on apps and they start swiping left and swiping right and picking good-looking men that they want to date, a lot of times they are extremely successful.
Just the sheer amount of options that you have, especially on the dating apps, it's just too much.
One of the women Dapper Dev actually spoke about said that every single time she picks a guy that she likes, 95% of the time, they end up matching with her. What's that mean? It means if you're a gorgeous guy and a gorgeous girl, you're probably gonna do just fine. But if you're an average guy or even an above average guy, you're actually gonna have long moments of depression because women aren't necessarily gonna choose you.
I think most would consider me to be an above average looking man. I get a fair amount of likes on the dating apps and a fair amount of attention in real life. My problem is how fast the interest from these women fizzles out once we actually start talking. I'll get one-line responses that soon turn into 1 or 2 word responses, then turn into absolute ghosting or no responses at all.
Imagine a woman that on a scale of 1 to 10 is, let's say, a 6, slightly above average, right? Now let's take a guy that is a 7, slightly better looking for a man than she is for a woman. According to the comments, that woman that scored a 6 out of 10 is probably going to have 2 or 3 times more success than that guy that's actually better looking than her. This creates a scenario where if you're not 6 foot tall, if you're not making 6 figures, right? If you don't have a 6-pack or you're hung like a wild animal, you might actually go through your life without dating.
So men need to actually be much quicker to walk away. Like if somebody shows you who they are, if you're talking to somebody and they start disappearing in conversation, they're saying one thing, doing another, their words don't match their actions, just be quick to walk away, man. That's all you can really do. And unfortunately, that's not the best advice for like solving this problem. But you got to remember something, bro. At the end of the day, the dating market itself has changed. It's not what it used to be.
You know, it used to be that the pool of applicants for dating was whoever was in your city, right? You very rarely dated outside your city. And before the internet, a lot of times who you dated was dependent on who lived in your neighborhood or who went to work with you, right? Who was literally in your field of vision. Now, I'd be willing to bet people date 95% of the time people outside of those traditional fields of vision. As a matter of fact, now the people that hit on you at your work, they end up getting fired for harassment. So Dapper Dev made some good points here. Tell me if you agree with any of them. Dapper Dev.
It's tough, man. It's tough. And that's why so many people just say they use dating apps for hookups, because that's pretty much all they are. Looking for a good woman on a dating app is like car shopping in a junkyard. You want this great car with low mileage, flawless body, runs and drives great with no issues. You're not going to find that in a junkyard. It's possible, but you're going to walk for miles and miles and miles. It's very improbable.
All right, so let's go back to that scenario with the good-looking guy. Even if he matches up and starts a texting conversation with a decent-looking girl, many men actually share this experience where at first they're texting back and forth, very rarely actually talking to a person, right? Slowly but surely, they go from speaking or from texting regularly to all of a sudden they're texting irregularly. Dapper Dev says this is where a lot of guys make mistakes. When she goes from writing and typing out sentences to all of a sudden just a single word, and instead of a conversation that goes back and forth regularly, all of a sudden each conversational piece is separated by long periods of time. He says this is when you're a guy, you should just throw your hands up in the air and walk away. And you want to know something? He's probably right. You're talking to somebody 20 years ago and you decide to use this new avenue of talking called text. And all of a sudden you look down and you and your buddy have gone back and forth for the last half hour texting one another. Guys, that doesn't happen anymore. Now look at that same conversation you had with your buddy, or it could be with your husband or wife. That thing is going to have two things going back and forth, two conversational pieces, followed up by 3 or 4 hours of silence. Tell me I'm right, because I know I am. Dapper Dev also says that even average women only want to date top hunks.
Most of the men that you guys want, like the super hot hunks or the high value men or the whatever, paint a picture of the ideal man that every woman would want. Well, that guy is extremely rare, and that guy has more standards than you could even list on a sheet of paper.
A girl ends up getting lucky and she scores a Chad or a Tyrone, right? Or a Raul, right? It's her ideal guy. She actually goes on a date with him and maybe even gets lucky, and she ends up making love to the hunk of her dreams. Every time that happens, it creates a scenario where in the past, she might have dated average guys. Now she wants to meet her Chad or Tyrone again. Now her standards have raised and she doesn't want anything to do with you. Crazy, huh? Did you bust out? Does that fan work? That's awesome. I like it.
Couldn't afford to pay the price. We snuck in through the back. Hearts racing as the lights went. Hold up. When did we grow up? When did dreams give way to plans?
Now I'm going to share some 1990s tips that I would be willing to bet still work, but they might be way scarier now. For example, me and my buddies back in the day, we used to go to this place down in Tempe called Mill Avenue. It's actually a famous place where people like to cruise, or at least it used to be. We would go up and down Mill Avenue walking, and we would hit on girls. And I had one buddy, his name was Jesse O. That was his last name. That's his last initial. But he had this philosophy that if he reached out to 100 girls, out of 100 girls, he was going to get probably a half dozen to a dozen that would actually give him their number. And out of that small amount that would give him his number, half of them would end up actually liking him and going out on dates. What happened is phenomenal. This guy that mostly got rejected by women had multiple dates each and every weekend, all because he got over his fear of rejection. Now here's the crazy thing. Women experience exactly what my buddy did, but without having to experience any of that rejection. Imagine them choosing a half dozen guys on any given weekend, and 90% of them end up responding back interested. It's kind of interesting, don't you think? But here's the cool thing. Apparently, even when women try to set up the date of their dreams, a lot of them end up getting ghosted.
So the fact that you're going on dating apps looking for like real love, not saying it's not out there, but it's just not probable. And the women that are putting on that act of being the good woman that wants true love, she's not the woman that a good-looking man wants, because she also is, sorry ladies, this is going to offend you, but she's probably older Most of the men that you guys want, like the super hot hunks or the high value men or the whatever, paint the picture of the ideal man that every woman would want. Well, that guy is extremely rare, and that guy has more standards than you could even list on a sheet of paper.
If you've ever set up a date with somebody you know or somebody that you were new and looking forward to meeting and you got ghosted, let me know down below. Dapper Dev said, what happens is women get to the point where slowly but surely they do want to settle down and meet somebody, but a lot of times, instead of doing that in their 20s, now they prolong that into their late 30s or even their 40s and 50s. What happens is a lot of these women end up becoming lonely themselves, because once you're 40, 50, 60, and you reach out to these guys that have been dealing with this dating market, a lot of times they don't necessarily want you, because as Dapper Dev says,
probably got a lot of mileage on the vedometer between her legs, probably has kids from, past men and or other baggage or things that high value men especially, or men with a lot of options, are going to see as baggage.
Too much trauma that they're dealing with. They might have some stay-at-home adult children that you can't stand and don't want to be a part of, right? And more than anything, their vagina has a lot of mileage on it. I believe he called it a vedometer. If your vedometer has a lot of mileage on it, not many people are going to want to buy it. It's funny, I always recommend people buy a used vehicle, and most of the time in dating we end up getting a used vehicle, but you still, just like with a car, you'd like to get lucky and find something with low miles. God, they used to always say that whatever a woman said her body count was, you could multiply it by 3. And it used to be those same people would say whatever number a guy tells you, you could divide it by 3. So if a guy told you, oh, I've been with 30 women, you know he's probably been with closer to 10. But if a woman told you she's been with 5 guys, you know she's really been with 15 or 20. Nowadays, you could probably multiply by 7 or 8 instead of 3. So when a woman tells you she's been with 5 men, she's probably been with 35. God, it really grosses me out to say that. And I feel bad for today's men, because women, I don't care how dirty you might be, back in the day, you guys just physically couldn't get around as much as it's possible today. And by the way, a lot of you women never went this route. If you're my age and you were married for most of your adult life and you never went on that hoochie mama trip around your life in the 20s and 30s, then this obviously doesn't pertain to you. But that's what makes it so worrisome. I grew up in a world where I was able to procreate. I've got 2 children from 2 different women. And I had other women where I almost made children with them, if you can imagine, right? In this world we grow up with, 30% of the men that are age 30 have never been with a woman. Many of them have never gone on a date, and I'm sure a lot of them have never even kissed a girl. I wish that when they close their eyes and dream at night, I wish that they could go to some magical place and have sex with a bunch of women. The internet and dating apps is undefeated. They will always find someone better. That's what's such a bummer. I think there's a lot of good-looking men and women out there. The point is, men are always going to like something that looks good, but women are too. And because they get so much positive affirmation while men get so much rejection, what you have is a situation where women are always going to know they can find someone better. Now, is that assumption the reality? I mean, who knows? I would like to think that I'm a special person, and I'm sure you would like to think that you're special too. But the reality is there's probably millions of guys that are just like us, right? Average build, average income, average futures ahead of us. And that's stuff that women are just going to always reject. Here's the cool thing. I didn't have to experience that in my 20s. You know, as you get a little bit closer to 50, and I'm sure as you get closer to 60, you probably don't trip about it as much. But it still bothers me, because I know there's a lot of good guys out there in their 20s that would probably make excellent partners and husbands and fathers someday. So you guys are in my prayers. I hope you can get lucky. Jonathan Shaper, 1650, says, hypergamy is the problem. They get bored and simply believe that they can always do better. Don't ever get married. That's what's so scary. We already lived in a world where half the people got divorced even before the internet came out. With the internet, the numbers are probably closer to 55 or 60%, and they're getting higher every day. I can't believe I'm saying this, but if you're going to get married, be really choosy about who you get married with. Mark Fenich, 1979, says, because they are on so many different dating platforms, and they literally get hit on 24/7. God, could you imagine? You're a jealous guy, your wife breaks up with you, takes you forever just to find someone to date you. Meanwhile, she's on 3 or 4 dates every weekend. What a nightmare. 8, Munchen Bayern 8 says, a 6 out of 10 woman has more options than a model-looking guy. See, I don't know if that's true. I think if you're one of these guys that looks like a model, you are that Chad or Tyrone that they're always looking for. Here's the one thing. If you are a good-looking guy and you meet a lot of women, work on your personality and stuff, because there might be a day in the future where that good-looking hair falls out, where those muscles turn to flab, where that health betrays you. It's always a good idea to be a good person. So if you have really good looks, work on the inside. Can I get an amen? Greta J, 9963, says, I'm a born-again Christian. The dating pod is pretty much zero, but God is on my side. Greta, you know what's going to happen? One day, you're going to actually meet a good virgin girl. She's going to be the only virgin left on the planet. So make sure when you meet her, you're not too picky. Nay, R8 says, next dude is just 1 click away. Oh my God, here's the scary thing. Even if you're married to a woman, the next dude is still 1 click away. Zombie Machinery says they have so many offers that in less than 24 hours of knowing you, they already feel tired of you. That's the bummer. Imagine you actually do connect with somebody, but that same evening, imagine 3 guys that look better than you are trying to connect with her as well. That's a heartbreaker. No Way Again says, I can guarantee I'll lose interest in them before they lose interest in me. Yeah, but here's the problem. If you lose interest in them, the next one of them might be hours and hours from you finding. They're gonna find a guy in 5 minutes after they get rid of you. Have a good night, keep walking. We'll do this again tomorrow. I'll see you then.